GMGP, good morning, good people. Y'all could have been anywhere in the world, but y'all decided to wake up with us. You're sick. You're sick in the head. There's a lot of fantasy football shows out there, but I promise y'all, they not like us. Brock Bowers, you looked a little quicker than fast. What does that even mean? Redraft, dynasty, best ball, high stakes, we got you covered. And that's MVS and Justin Watson with some of the dopest tools designed to help you cancel out the noise and dominate your leagues. If there's a white wide receiver named Antoine, sign me up. Maybe it's cultural. I don't know. In season or off season, rain, sleet, hail, and snow, comma, semicolon, period, next sentence, to bring you the most actionable and entertaining content on YouTube. You don't go buy the dip on the Titanic.
Quarterback that you love, D-Bro. One of the best values in fantasy football.
Prop bets with my man Jay Rich.
Is that yes! Let's go!
So wipe the crust out of your eye, get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake y'all asses up with Ray
and Jay
in the morning.
My God.
How good is
Dude.
he? Yo, Jay, let's go, baby. GMGP. It is Friday, September 20th, 2024. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray and Jay. It's Freaky Feel Good Friday. Jay, you know what they say about the days, right, Jay? Jay Rich, you know what they say about the days?
What do they say about the days?
Hey, Jay. There ain't enough days to have any bad ones, so let's make the day great, baby. You heard that saying before, Jay? Have you heard that?
No, I haven't. That's new to me. I'm going to take that with me, though. Let me get my notepad out on my Ocho.
Take that with you, baby. Who we got in the building? What's up? Mason in the doggone building. Emilio, my dog Marcus, GMGP. While I cut my yard before it gets hot, shout out to my dog Marcus. I see Kong the King in the building. Lindsey Mack, my girl Weeze, Toronto Dave, Big Steve-O, Daniel Perry, Rico Stone, Luke, Jimbo, Moggs. What's happening with you? Jordan Baker, Garrison. You already know. Week 3, baby. Let's get it. If you have missed the good shit that has been on the channel, hey, you see it kind of in the top left right there. Wide receiver usage, breaking down the best opportunity and utilization tool in fantasy football, Jay. You know what they say. You got to trust it. Trust the Trinity. Make sure you check that out. And if you watch the video, there was like a little nugget in there to let you try this thing out for a reduced cost. That goes away after today. So you better check out the video. If you want to track opportunity, you want the best tool to track utilization, which wide receivers you should have. And while if you had the Trinity, you would know Allen Lazard is a problem for Garrett Wilson. Go to ddfantasyfootball.com, check out the video, like, comment, subscribe. And this Sunday, make sure you are tapped into my boys, Dynasty Theory, Mitch and John Bauer, as they take you through all your start and sit decisions for week 3. Right here, live on the channel, sometime in the morning time. It's like 10:30 a.m. my time.
11 a.m. Eastern time.
11 Eastern, 10 a.m. my time. That's right. Thank you. Jay Rich, speaking of, how you doing this morning, baby?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's funny. Shout out to Marcus getting up early, cutting the lawn, and it had me thinking, Ray, because I don't know this about you. When was the last time you cut a lawn? Do you cut your own lawn? Because I got a feeling that Ray G, Mr. Pay for Convenience, gets his lawn cut by the local lawn care company.
Yeah. I haven't cut my grass in a long time. I had all the equipment. I've got no problem doing it. Once we move, the yard is a lot bigger. We pay for somebody. Man, I try to support local business, man. I support local.
Nice
so
spin.
If there's a local lawn care service provider, there's no need for old GQ to go out there in 110 and mow the grass. I'm dark enough. I don't need a tan. I'm good to go, baby. Jay Rich, we got a lot to talk about today, baby. And a lot of news, man. A lot of news from all over the place. You know, we are a connoisseur of all sports here on Wake Up, Jay. And I just want to ask you, is this how high on the accomplishment list would you place this right here? How high on the accomplishment list would you place Mr. 50-50 Shohei Ohtani? 50 home runs, over 50 stolen bases. You know, now that my son, Jay, is an all-star center fielder down here in Rockwall, Texas, I am Mr. MLB. Talk about Shohei quickly, dog, as he becomes the first player in Major League Baseball history at 50 freaking home runs and 50 stolen bases. Jay, I mean, how big of a freak is Ohtani? Just how awesome is this accomplishment? Historically, where does it rank for you?
I mean, historically, it's right up there. You know, like you could put Bonds' record for home runs because home runs are maybe a little bit more difficult, but you don't see guys that can do both like this. Like Acuna is the closest one because he went 40-60, but now Ohtani is chasing 60-60, 6 for 6. 2 steals yesterday, 3 homers, 10 RBIs, 6 runs scored, or whatever it was, 3 runs scored for him. Like, insane. And like people forget, this dude is also a ridiculously ace level pitcher on the side, like just for fun. And you know, as much as he's paid, he's probably still underpaid. I hope he could get to 60-60. It's very unlikely given how few games there are left in the season. But like people talk about how he's the next Babe Ruth, like just get out of here. He's way better than Babe Ruth. It's not even close. Way more difficult of an era. And I hope one day we will be talking about a player who is the next Shohei Ohtani, because he is that level of generational. He's basically as close as you can get to Aaron Judge without being Aaron Judge, because Aaron Judge is basically Barry Bonds in like this new era of baseball. But Ohtani, the fact that he can pitch and hit at the level that he can is probably something we truly may never see again in baseball, because it's just that ridiculous.
Gotta appreciate it. Appreciate it. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani. And then some news broke this morning, Jay, out of the association. Joel Embiid, a 3-year, $293 million extension for Joel Embiid. My God. He is the 4th highest career earner in the NBA behind LeBron, Steph, and Paul George, Jay Rich. So USA Olympic champion Joel Embiid gets a mega extension from the Philadelphia 76ers, and we will not talk about other 76ers news that sort of rolls into the NFL. We're going to leave Tyrese Maxey and his dealings alone. We are not going to pile on to Bryce Young.
We're not the shade room, Ray. Why'd you even bring it up? Why are you going to do that to your boy? This is your boy. And you're going to bring it up anyways.
I said we're not going to talk about it. We're not going to touch on any other Sixers news. We got to get to the NFL.
Sounds like we're talking about it.
But there is some more news out of the Philly camp. For those that know, you know, it's been a rough week. It's been a very rough week for Bryce Young. Jay Rich, let's talk about it. Manic and Chill went live in our Discord. So if you're not a part of the Discord, patreon.com/ALLGAS. If you want to hear from Scott, if you want to hear from Shane, make sure you get over there. And then we got a lot of stuff coming. Make sure you check out, like we said, the Start Sit show, but use the Start Sit tool provided by Dynasty Daddy. Go to dynastydaddy.com and use that thing to figure out who the hell you need to start between Marv and Neighbors and Olave and Shaheed and all these other places. And after this video today, Jay Rich and I will be posting our top 15 quarterbacks, 40-something running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. Our rankings will be out after Wake Up. Jay, we got some news out of San Francisco, and it just, like, the hits keep coming, man. The hits keep coming. Talk about what's going on in San Fran right now.
Yeah, San Fran is, I don't know who's got more down bad right now, them or the Rams, but George Kittle popped up on the injury report with a hamstring injury. He did not practice yesterday. His status is very questionable right now for the weekend. So we'll see. George Kittle is a guy who can tough it out, but I think the bigger concern, Ray, is that we've seen him battle through injuries before, and he becomes a bit of a decoy. So if you got Brandon Ayuk, Ray, this is the week. They're playing the Rams. Brandon Ayuk is the only show in town, and I would start him with full confidence because that Rams matchup is the best in the league. They allow the most yards in the NFL, and Ayuk should smash. But I think, Ray, the biggest issue is if Kittle does play, people will want to start him, and I think you kind of have to. But you also shouldn't be surprised if he does, because we have seen him be used as a decoy in the past. But Kittle is have a hamstring injury. Another player who's trending towards being out is Evan Ingram with his hamstring injury that he suffered in pregame warmups on Sunday. He's not trending like he's going to play, and neither is Kenneth Walker, who was a DNP yesterday, and looking like it may be multiple weeks out for Kenneth Walker as it stands right now. There's been some people who've seen some video of him running on the side fields, and it still doesn't look like he's quite there with his oblique injury. And we have seen him miss multiple weeks before with oblique injuries. It's something that's popped up for him multiple times. Brevin Jordan, the Houston Texans backup tight end, tore his ACL. So he is out for the season. Not overly fantasy implications there. T. Higgins returned to practice and is likely to suit up on Monday night, which I don't love. T. Higgins returned to practice. Yeah. So they play on Monday. So him returning to practice on Thursday is equivalent to someone practicing on Wednesday, which is good because that means he's definitely trending towards playing, which isn't great for my Jamar Chase overs, but it's good to see Higgins on the field. He probably does nothing anyways. Jordan Love returned to practice. Tajay Spears and Romo Dunze as well all got limited practice in. Of course, Jordan Love is the main guy here that we're watching. They have Tennessee this week, Malik Willis revenge game, or Jordan Love being hurt and playing. We'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to play, but they haven't closed the door on him playing just yet. So we could see Jordan Love on the field, which would be great if you have Jordan Reed, Christian Watson, or Tucker Kraft.
The whole
just about
damn
any of these
wide receiver core, right?
Pretty much the whole group needs Jordan Love back. Keenan Allen missed practice again on Thursday and is likely to be unavailable as it stands right now for week 3. But we'll see. Things can always change for Keenan Allen. And Cooper Kupp, Ray, is not headed to IR just yet. He's going to wear a cast on his foot, and they're going to see how he progresses over the next week. But there is a chance that he doesn't miss the 4 weeks and doesn't go on IR. This is interesting from the Rams. It sounds like they're still trying to stay very competitive, still trying to keep these guys not, like, I guess, on the field instead of just putting them on IR. And then the last piece of news, Ray, which I'm sure you and Marcus especially very excited
Marcus
for.
Is loving this.
Yeah, I want to see Marcus's take in the chat if he's not too busy mowing his lawn. But Arch Manning is set to start. Quinn Ewers is not going to play in this game. Ray, we've been talking about Arch Manning forever. Where are you at on him, though? Are you excited to watch him play? I mean, his first couple snaps last game were insane what he did. He was showing off the wheels. It was over 20 miles an hour, breaking away from defenders. Like, I didn't know the Mannings had wheels like that.
Yeah, man, just shit. You should go back and look at some Tennessee Peyton. Tennessee Peyton used to move around a tad bit before he became his neck and spine got messed. Who does Texas play this weekend? Who do the let's see who they play this weekend.
I honestly don't know.
Monroe, Louisiana Monroe. Look at this.
Oh, yeah, Louisiana Monroe.
Hometown family, Louisiana Monroe at home. So
yeah, gonna beat the brakes off him. That's what he's gonna do.
Arch should play well. It'd be fun to see Arch Manning. He looked good in the first one, and just know this is temporary. Once Quinn gets back, Quinn will be the lead guy. Quinn will be starting.
We'll see.
That's gonna be the number one pick in the 2025 NFL draft. Quinn Ewers, right there, Jay. All right. Well, there it is. Any of those injuries particularly concerning for you moving into week 3? If Kittle is out, you talked about Brandon Ayuk and how good he should do, but does this not make you even more concerned for Brock Purdy, who just feels like all this is happening at a convenient time when they've got to pay him next year, and depending on how he plays this year, I wonder how much that's going to impact those contract negotiations. But which one of these injuries just really Jay, the Rams situation is one where I'm just not enthusiastic about anybody, whether it's any of the ancillary pass catchers. Kyron Williams, don't have a lot of faith in it. Higgins coming back. If he plays on Monday night, fire him up. The same reasons why you were excited about Jamar Chase. If he's going to be on the field, I can't not play him if he's out there, Jay. I can't not play him if he's out there. I can't do it.
T's one of those guys, though, that like just because he's active doesn't mean he's going to be overly involved. You know, that's the only fear with T. And then the other side is like this game could get out of hand pretty quickly. Just they have no running game right now in Cincinnati. I don't think that's going to change against Washington. But going back to Brock Purdy, right? Their schedule as it stands right now, they have the Rams, and then they have the Patriots, and then the Cardinals. So they're expecting Debo back in a couple weeks. Kittle, obviously, and if nothing happens, will be back healthy for that Cardinals game. I feel like they're just going to kind of tread water for now until they have to get to that Cardinals game, which will be a big one, depending on how the Cardinals play over the next 3 weeks. I'm not that worried about Purdy. I had a bit of struggle ranking him only because, like, the matchup is so good. I expect the offense to play well. The ceiling is still very high against the Rams, but you know, what does it look like when they don't really have to do a lot? And I'm expecting a massive game from Jordan Mason. We'll talk about that when we get to the ranking show later on, but not so worried about Purdy. I think he probably treads water right around low-end QB1. Expect him to throw 2 touchdowns in this game pretty easily, but yeah, Ayuk should absolutely smash. When Debo's not in the lineup, Ayuk, I believe, is like a top 5 wide receiver in terms of fantasy points per game, so he really should smash, and this matchup is one of the best in the NFL, if not the best in the NFL currently.
All right, Jay, we did have a game last night of sorts. The New England Patriots looked pathetic versus the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football, losing 3-24. This is after somehow putting foot in the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. They did not register a 100-yard passer. They did not register a 30-yard rusher. Their leading receiver, Pop Douglas, did very well, 7 for 69. but they looked awful. Ramondre Stevenson absolutely killed you if you started him. And if there were any other Patriot that you decided to fire up, even the great Hunter Henry, it was penalty after penalty. Jacoby Brissett, I'm watching the game, and all I'm thinking is what happens in practice to where you're like, this is the guy that we need to throw out there. They put Drake May out there. He gets wrecked right off the rip. This offensive line is terrible. They can't run the ball. This does not look good for New England, Jay. Let's start on that side of the ball. Moving forward, Drake May needs to start, right? Are we done with Jacoby Brissett? Get him the hell out of there. Here's my question. Do you throw Drake May out there and risk getting him beat to shit, lose his confidence, drop games, or do you let Jacoby Brissett go out there and still be pedestrian? I mean, 12 for 18 for 98 yards, 5.4 average, sacked 5 times, QBR of 24. Jay, it was a one-sided contest in this one, and I'm watching them. I'm like, I don't know where New England goes from here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you start Drake. He got hit twice, and he probably got actually hit more than that. He only had 10 dropbacks, got sacked twice. Like he was hit multiple times. So you look at the offensive line, you look at what Jacoby Brissett has to deal with every single time he passes the ball. You're like, yeah, I see a world where maybe that's not a good environment for Drake May to be trying to develop chemistry with his players and playing on the field. You can do those reps in practice as he can learn the system, be more familiar with it, have chemistry off the field. It needs to translate on the field. But I think we all know that this was going to happen at some point for the Patriots. Yeah, they looked good week 1. Yeah, they did well again in week 2. The defense is looking pretty strong. Like, they did give Rodgers Fitz time for that off coverage they were playing against. The receivers just didn't work at all. But I think the bigger thing is, like, this was bound to happen for the Pats. And I think now, at this point, it's easy to say go to Drake. But if you do, and he looks even worse than Jacoby, you're really in a bad spot. So I think Mayo's in a tough spot. He's got to just find a way to rally the troops. Ramondre fumbled as well, which is uncharacteristic of him. And the team is just, offensively, it's awful. But this is what you should have expected.
They didn't even look like they wanted to be there. They didn't look like they wanted to be on the field.
Though it's a bad offense, but the Jets defense did look quite good. They were kind of okay, I'd say, the first couple weeks. They looked like the Jets defense we expected to see this week. They really did. They were really good.
That's like my son's 8U team playing against my youngest son's T-ball team. That's what it looked like last night. No shit. The defense looked good against, and again, a pathetic-looking offensive line. Ramondre was unenthused. 6 rush attempts for him. Just disgusting across the board. Let's actually talk about some fantasy-relevant players on the New York Jets side of the ball. And I do want to start with Garrett Wilson, Jay. Let's start with talking about Garrett Wilson. You see him and Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what the hell's going on. There's an interesting takes on both sides of the coin this morning about Garrett Wilson. Some people are very worried. Some people are very concerned. Another pedestrian performance for a player who was universally ranked and viewed as a top 10 wide receiver option coming into the season. 5 for 33, did lead the team with 9 targets. Long of 9, he scored a touchdown to salvage his day. Unfortunately, it's what we kind of talked about in our Discord. When we did our Trinity show for the Discord, I categorized the Allen Lazards, the Mike Williams, the Xavier Gibsons. When you look at the receivers on this team, Conklin had 6 targets. Lazard had 3. Williams had 4. Breece Hall had 5. Gibson had 2. Rutger had 2. Braylon Allen had 3. They threw the ball 35 times, which is good. Those guys are gnats. And when you have all these different gnats in your offense that just hover around the main thing, I think it's going to limit the theoretical upside that Garrett Wilson possesses. I fully believe that G-Dub is going to have his moment where he smashes for us. But if you continue to have 2 running backs that are getting 8 to 10 targets a week, a tight end that's going to get 5 to 7 targets a week, and then you've got multiple receiving options that are just going to get 3 to 4, those are gnats. And as good as Garrett Wilson is, those other guys getting involved, it's problematic for this elite outcome that we want. I think Garrett Wilson has to be treated like a wide receiver 2, a mid-range wide receiver 2 moving forward. You're still starting him, but if he's your one, I would not feel great about that. So am I concerned about him? He looks fine, but it's 3 games in, and he has yet to return the type of value that we drafted him to be, first-round pick in startup drafts. He has definitely underperformed and has not produced to the level of expectation that we had for him. And I'm mildly concerned about the other options in this offense just doing enough annoying shit to take away from that upside that we want out of Garrett Wilson. Actionable sort of advice. I've got no problem pivoting off of Wilson. Can I find another option that's in a much more concentrated offense that doesn't have 5 or 6 receiving options that Aaron Rodgers is going to throw the ball to? I would have no problem doing that, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, I still like Wilson a lot. It's, you looked back to that game. There was a couple plays that they couldn't quite connect on some bigger some bigger opportunities. It was a lot of short throws. Like, Rodgers reminds me of kind of like when we saw Tom Brady play late in his career. Not so much on the Bucs, more so on the Patriots, when they had a lot of good playmakers, not quite to the level of what we imagine Garrett Wilson could be, but just spreading the ball around, using tight ends, using both running backs, using 3-4 wide receivers. And obviously, the bigger thing here is that you can see the trust he has in Allen Lazard. And while we like Allen Lazard, he's very annoying for fantasy because he has no business getting end zone targets or red zone targets ahead of Garrett Wilson. He got the first read in the red zone. It wasn't Garrett Wilson in their first opportunity. Garrett Wilson had one later. He didn't quite convert. He fell down to the 2. These things happen. But I think when you talk about him for fantasy, he will have the games. And I don't know if I would be selling just yet, but it doesn't seem like they're on the same page at the level you need to have that elite connection for fantasy football. So that's my more concern. And like you said, there's the lack of concentrated targets. It's an issue, but he did get 9. Next closest was 6 for Conklin. But I do want to ask you about Conklin. Like, do you think he could be a thing for fantasy? Because no one was expecting this. Yeah. Is this a blimp on the radar, or do you think there could be more to this?
Oh, no. I think there's definitely some more there. Rodgers is spreading the ball around. He is distributing the ball to a little bit of everybody. And I keep seeing like, there's no way I'm going Garrett Wilson over Nico Collins. There's nothing that indicates that is the play. Like, not at all. You appreciate you, Baxter, being here, but that's a big hell no from me. All this same page. It's not about the page. Y'all, that's not how football, they're on the page. They're throwing it to them 9 times, but they're not doing the type of things that are yielding high-level fantasy points. Like, he got 9 targets. He's running the routes. He got the red zone work. Like, it's not Garrett Wilson. I think so many times people are like, oh, he'll get on the page with Wilson. He's not going 9 for 9. It's the fact that there are multiple options in this offense, and the usage from Aaron Rodgers to those guys does enough to bring his ceiling down. That's what it is. It's just those guys are doing enough to bring the ceiling down. It's football, man. You look at some other offenses, and they're not throwing the ball to the wide receiver 3, 4, or 5 on a team, unlike the Jets. So am I concerned? A little bit, but Garrett Wilson is good. He's involved in the offense. Better days should come, but I'm not expecting him to be a top 5 wide receiver for me. I think there's a big difference between getting 9 targets and somebody out there that's actually getting 13, 14, 15, and you're depending on that every single week in a concentrated offense. So I like Wilson. Better days should be ahead, but this is going to be problematic all season long for the Jets. Jay, let's go talk about the running backs real quick, because that's what everybody is clamoring about this morning from the Jets. Braylon Allen and Breece Hall each had about 50 yards rushing. Braylon Allen led the way with 55. Breece had 54. Breece got in the end zone. Braylon Allen was also involved in the receiving game, 3 for 13. Breece 4 for 29. Screwed me because I had over 29.5.
Everyone had the over.
I know. Everyone had the over. Jay, do you think this is a problem? Braylon Allen, does he pull enough from Breece Hall? They ran the ball 33 times, which, again, we keep talking about Garrett Wilson. They're running the ball. They want to run the ball. Let's protect Aaron Rodgers. They had Morgan Moses, one of their offensive linemen, go down.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great recipe for success for the Jets. Run the ball, establish it, have an efficient offense, get the ball, spread it out all over. Like, this is what they want to do. How do you feel about Braylon Allen and Breece Hall in the backfield together?
Honestly, I'm pretty worried for Breece Hall right now. I think that is more than deserved. Because you look at his...
Stop.
Why?
Stop.
But why? What do you mean stop?
Why are you worried? He had 16. He had the goal line target. He got goal line attempt. He still had 5 targets in the offense. What are you worried about?
He's not an elite usage running back. That's very clear. He's not going to be a guy who, when there's 30 carries, he gets 25 of them or he gets 24 of them. He only had 16. They ran the ball 33 times. Now, part of it, the game was over, but it seems like Braylon Allen is not just a guy who's going to spell Breece Hall. Like, I was going to pose the question to you before the show. Is he the most valuable handcuff in fantasy right now? Because, one, Rodgers clearly trusts him. He is not on
Christian
the field if
McCaffrey's
Rodgers
the
doesn't
most
trust him at
valuable
all.
handcuff in fantasy.
Well, for now, right? He's the most valuable handcuff is Christian McCaffrey. But I think you talk about these offenses, like we haven't seen another running back touch the field. It's Braylon Allen and Breece Hall. So if Breece Hall gets hurt or he misses a game, like Braylon Allen's going to smash. But I think the inverse isn't true. When Braylon Allen is healthy, Breece Hall continues to kind of like, I wouldn't say lose touches, but there's so much faith in Braylon Allen to what he does between the 20s, and he can catch the ball way better than I thought he could. And so all of a sudden you have this offense that's like the receivers being spread a little bit too thin. And so with that, I think Breece Hall's ceiling isn't quite what we see from Saquon Barkley, a full touch load for Bijan Robinson and what you drafted him to be. That's more my concern about Breece Hall. It's not that he's not amazing. It's not that I wouldn't rank him in my top 3 or top 5, but Braylon Allen is definitely something in this offense for sure.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think the answer to your question, am I worried about Breece Hall, is no. I'm not worried about Breece Hall. Breece Hall is still heavily involved in this offense, and he is still the starting primary running back for the Jets. This was a good game. They had blown the doors off of the Patriots, although the score wasn't 50-0. There was no shot for New England to do anything. Even Isaiah Davis got carries, right? This was a good game to get people involved, get some bodies in there, get some NFL game action. I do think that he's more than just a backup. This might be a true situation where he's got a game plan. He's going to touch the ball 10 to 14 times a game, which I think the bigger conversation is Braylon Allen, is he a standalone option in fantasy? You know, is he somebody that you can throw into a flex spot opposed to you jamming in a Jalen Tolbert, a Brandon Cooks? You're trying to fire up one of those guys, Curtis Samuel. I'd feel pretty good about if you're telling me I'm going to get 9 to 13 opportunities from Braylon Allen in a run-first offense, I wouldn't mind jamming him into a flex spot. I think he is a very valuable backup. I do not believe that he is some threat to Breece Hall losing work, but I do understand your point that he probably does enough to keep Breece Hall from potentially being a 25-point per game type running.
Yeah,
back,
like I think he can prevent him from being RB1.
I think that's fair. 100%. I think that's we're still happy with what we're getting from Hall, but I think you are also right that Allen's involvement kind of takes his ceiling down a little bit. I do believe that he will continue to be involved in this offense. It was good for the Jets and good for that offense, Jay. Anything else you want to touch on from either side of the ball this game? There's probably not a lot. Pop Douglas, you got to be at least happy about that if you got Pop. If you got Pop, I mean, 7 for 69, shit, I'll take that. You know, you're talking about Garrett Wilson. I'll take that from Pop Douglas. So anything else from this game?
I think, Ray, the question now remains is, can you start Ramondre every single week? Do you think there's times where you're going to want to bench him? Because, yes, this is a bad matchup. The Jets defense is very good. But before we were like, nah, forget it, man. I'm starting Ramondre. He's getting 20 carries. He's getting 20 opportunities. If this is a game script that could play out.
What the hell? What are you talking about? Breece had to. Who's overreacting? We're talking about what the hell happened in the game. What are you? Did I not just go on a diatribe and say, we're not worried? It may pull from the ceiling. What are you? Are you listening? What are we overreacting about?
I just need to ask CJ one question, Ray. Who has more touchdowns? Who has more touchdowns, Ray? Braylon Allen or Breece Hall?
I don't give a shit about any of that. I'm talking to him.
You should care if you're talking about ceiling, right? So let's just be honest. But yeah, I think Ramondre is a guy that it has me questioning a little bit, kind of what that ceiling could be if this Pats offense is that bad in bad. Like
you're gonna
play San Francisco.
Put him out there.
You're gonna start him?
Who are you gonna start? You're gonna start him. So yes, next week, as shitty as he was this game, you're going to start him next week. You're going to. You're not.
Fran, man.
You're going to. You're
against San Fran.
You're gonna start him. All right, Jay. Let's see what else we got this week. Enough with that Thursday night game. We spent 30 freaking minutes talking about that game. Where do you want to start at?
Do you want to skip the bad games? Because we got Denver and Tampa. Yuck.
Denver and Tampa, real quick. Denver and Tampa, the total of this game is 41. 41 points in this game, Jay. Broncos are underdogs in this one, of course, 6.5-point dogs on the road at Tampa Bay. You're firing up Baker. You're firing up Evans. You're firing up Chris Godwin. Right? Like there's no doubt about it. You're firing up all your Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right?
Yeah, Cade Otton's kind of a miss for me. I'm not really going too hard on Cade Otton. And I have a bit of concerns about Rachaad White, too. Rachaad White's been so bad as a rusher. I just don't even know if I really want to start him.
49 and a half
only
yards
thing
on Underdog right now for Rachaad White. 49 and a half rushing yards for Rachaad White. Both Godwin and Mike Evans right around 67 and a half and 65 and a half yards. Baker, 246 and a half. I'm just going to tell y'all right now, I have Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin as top 12 options this week at their position. Let's fire them up and let's light up those Denver Broncos this week.
Yeah, the Broncos are still one of the worst defenses, I believe. What are they in total yards allowed? Pass yards, I know they're really, really high.
Firing them up.
It's really bad for Denver, even though they have Surtain, and that's really the only reason why Mike Evans could be held at bay to some extent. They literally cannot run the ball, so they're just going to pass. Baker's probably have another really good game. I would start him if you have him. Even in single quarterback leagues, I would consider starting Baker because I think he's going to have a really good game. The only issue is, and we kind of saw this a bit with Rodgers, is like, what does that ceiling look like with another team that literally can't score any points?
I know.
Bo Nix is probably going to struggle in this game, even against this Tampa defense.
Anybody from Denver you're starting, Jay? And I'm just going to give you some quick lines. Jaleel McLaughlin, his freaking rushing yard line is 17 and a half. Javonte Williams, 44 yards. Cortland Sutton, 3.5 for set. Are you starting anybody from Denver in this matchup? Yay or nay? So we can go to the next game.
No, none of them made my rankings. None of them.
Yep, none of them made mine either. Not one Bronco crested anywhere inside the rankings. Giants versus the Browns. Giants 6.5-point dogs on the road at Cleveland. Jay, Deshaun Watson. You got the rushing attack with the confusing mess of Deonta Foreman and Jerome Ford. You got Amari Cooper, who hasn't done shit. Jerry Jeudy, you people don't like. David Njoku's hurt. Where are you firing up Browns at? Are there any Browns you're going with? Just let's quickly get through this. Any Browns you feel good about?
No Browns. No Browns this week. I was struggling between Jerry Jeudy and Amari Cooper, and I just want neither one. The matchup is good against the Giants, but I just don't think it's worth it. Watson's too much of a dice roll for me right now. It's just not looking good for the Browns. They'll probably win the game.
Watson, Jay. 200 yards. 200
They'll
yards
probably
for
win
Watson.
the game, but it's 39-point over-under. Like, it's a really bad game environment. Really, really bad.
I don't mind Jerry Jeudy's receptions at 3.5. You check out his usage on the Trinity Tracker, ddfantasyfootball.com. He's leading the team in wide receiver usage and opportunity. Wouldn't mind a stab at that 3.5 reception line from Jerry Jeudy in a game where, the Giants are going to throw the ball. Let's look at Neighbors real quick. You want to look at Neighbors lines? See what we're taking for Neighbors?
We can.
6 receptions, 64 yards. How you feeling about Neighbors? 6 receptions.
I don't want Neighbors this week. The Cleveland defense is phenomenal.
So you're a little nervous about Cleveland?
Because look at what just happened. Neighbors had 18 targets. If you're the defensive coordinator for the Browns, I don't remember who it is off the top of my head. Why on earth would you let Neighbors never see double coverage? Like, there's no other threat. Singletary rush for 100 yards. You're not beating us. Your only job is to stop Malik Neighbors. And while he could get the receptions, if you want to go that route, 7 is still a lot to get. But the targets, we'll see. He should be doubled on every play. Like that. This is where you look at Malik Neighbors last week against Washington. It's his best case outcome. Now you're going into a situation that could be one of his worst in a really poor game environment on the road. I hope he plays well, but I'm definitely cautious. I'm cautious, yeah.
39-point total. It's the second lowest over-under total on the slate, only behind... Yeah. Oh, man, the freaking...
Weez has to check my slips from last week when I hit Malik Neighbors at 125 with a tutty.
No, it's actually the third lowest. There are 2 games with a lower projected total than this one. Disgusting, Jay. Let's go to a high game. Let's go to a high-flying game. The Philadelphia Eagles and the New Orleans Saints. Philly, 2.5-point dogs. 2.5-point dogs. 49.5 total, Jay. Saints favored in this one. Where are we at? And you saw the ranks. I got Rashid Shaheed inside my top 15.
You got him higher than me, which was crazy.
I got him high. I got him high.
Look, don't get me wrong. I was loving it. I was grinning ear to ear. I was like, oh, I finally did it. I got Ray on the... But, I've been preaching this all season, people. Philly's defense is horrible. It is terrible. I don't care what you think you have seen from them. I don't care if you're a Philly fan. It is terrible. And Ray, the biggest X factor here, there's one player in that secondary who every single player on the Saints hates, and that is none other than CJ Gardner-Johnson.
Gardner-Johnson?
Prepare for him to get
yeah.
absolutely cooked by Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. I love both of them this week. I know people are a little concerned about Olave. The production hasn't quite been there. I think Olave gets on track this week. And of course, we're taking the over on Rashid Shaheed because he's going to light up this Philly defense.
Over 47.5 yards, Jay. We're locking that in. Derek Carr, 235.5. 1.5 passing touchdowns for Carr.
What's it? It's
Jay,
juiced up,
feeling?
though. I would take that for sure.
You
I'd
like
take
that? You want to correlate that? Let's go higher, 1.5
I do
Carr,
like it.
and then we're gonna go higher, 47.5 Shaheed. We're gonna build out a winner here. We're gonna build out a winner. Yeah, I am high on both Olave and Shaheed. Both of those guys, when you track the utilization, when you look at the Trinity, both of those guys are far right. They are doing the necessary stuff to score fantasy points. I do think it's only a matter of time before Chris Olave gets it going. This is one where I feel a lot more bullish about saying that opposed to the Jets situation. There are no gnats in New Orleans. The only two players who are catching passes are Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Concentrated offense. I like Derek Carr this week. I like Rashid Shaheed. I'm high on Carr, high on Shaheed, high on Olave. I'm high on New Orleans. I'm high as shit early this morning, Jay Rich. Let's go, baby. Let's go.
All right, Ray, so let's get to the other half of this game because, 50-point over-under. I honestly love both sides. I think the line is set almost perfectly at 2.5. Philly's on the road. I think that the Eagles can take advantage of this Saints secondary as well. Where are you at on Diontae Smith? He's ranked very aggressively in my ranks right now, and I think he's going to go nuclear. Yeah, I know it.
You have Smitty very high.
So my philosophy, right? The Saints get up early. You obviously are going to start Kamara, you're going to start Olave, start Shaheed, all those guys. But I do think the Saints will go up early in this game, and the Eagles got to play catch up. And that, of course, favors a massive game from Diontae Smith. His receptions were at 5.5. I would obviously take the over on that. The yards even at 75.5. I don't hate it. I like based off where I have him ranked, I would take the over, but would you rather go after the longest reception at 25.5?
I was looking at the long reception at 25.5.
And I think he scores too, honestly. Like I think Smitty probably scores.
I don't want to bet on the touchdown.
This is going to be a very high-scoring game. If you get the Saints that we saw the first 2 weeks,
Jay. Yeah,
and the Eagles playing catch-up, the Eagles playing catch-up is best-case scenario for us because that is where you're going to see the fantasy value really go nuclear. If Philly holds onto the ball a lot and they control the game, it will be a lower-scoring game, and you probably don't hit these overs. But I love Smitty this week. I think he's going to go crazy against Lattimore. I think he's going to have a really good game.
I just ran this one. I just ran these three. I'm going to reuse these players, but I ran Shaheed, Smitty, and Carr higher than the receiving yard lines and Derek Carr higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. We're going to keep them in there. I'm with you. I am high on Smith as well. I think he should have a big game, though. A.J. Brown. There's not a lot else from Philadelphia. I mean, you got Saquon Barkley. You talk about a touchdown. I mean, it's already
Barkley,
juiced
baby.
Heavily to the over for Saquon to score. Saints defense is very good. I'm excited for this matchup. A high total, Jay, should mean a lot of fantasy points and a lot of scoring. Let's go to the Chargers and the Steelers. This is the lowest projected total on the slate this weekend. 36 points, Jay Rich. So you got to be very mindful of which assets, which players you want to target in the offense because it is low. Let's start with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Justin Fields getting the start. 159 yards for Fields is his projected passing yard line with 42.5 rushing yards. He is not inside my top 15 quarterbacks to start on the week in this matchup versus the Chargers. Najee Harris, maybe. Pickens, 44.5 yards versus LAC. I don't like it, Jay. There's not a lot of Steelers that I feel great about this week. What say you?
Yeah, Pickens is the only guy I'm looking at, and it would be longest reception only. I don't think he's going to have a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
You want a game where they're going to establish it? This is the game right here. You're going to get running on both sides. You're going to get crazy defense, very low total. Like this is a game that's going to be ugly. And I think, when you just talk about how this season's gone so far, when have the Pittsburgh Steelers or even, honestly, the Chargers played in a good game for fantasy football yet? Like, neither of them have. Jimbo's asking about Herbert. Herbert did get a limited practice in on Thursday, so he should be fine. How much does he throw is another question. but he should be fine to play and be active and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I would look at Fields' rushing yards because I think they will utilize him a little bit more to take advantage of an aggressive pass rush from the Chargers. But yeah, it's Pickens' longest reception, Fields' rushing yards, and those are the only two I'd be looking at in this game, period. No Chargers for me. Absolutely none.
Hold on. You say no. Hold on. You say no Chargers. Let me just give you what's out there, right? 175 yards for Herbert. I don't think we're starting Justin Herbert, are we?
No, he's not throwing 2 touchdowns in this game. I'd be very surprised. Well,
it's only one. Ladd McConkey, 35 yards. J.K. Dobbins, 50 rushing yards. And the man of the hour, Quentin Johnston, 35 receiving yards for Quentin Johnston.
I mean, I'm not there. The question is Dobbins. Where you at with Dobbins? Because, again, this week I had trouble ranking him, more so because of the matchup than because of himself. He's been so efficient, almost 10 yards a carry. He's been unreal so far this season. The 12 rush attempts is an interesting line. Would you take the over on that, or do you feel better about the yards?
I'm looking at the rush attempts, Jay. I like 12. I like 12 attempts, but, man, if JK gets 12 attempts, he's got to go over 50 yards, right?
I think there's a better chance. I think if he gets 10 attempts, he's probably going over 50 yards.
That's what I'm saying, man. I think I like this. I do not believe they're going to be able to throw the ball a ton.
I don't even think they want to. This is
falling. They took the line down. They took the line down. The 49.5 for Dobbins.
Oh, shocking.
All right. Shocking, Jay. All right. We got some more good games that we got to get to. There are 2 Monday night games on the slate this week. We're not going to touch on those. We'll talk about those on Monday's Wake Up episode. But we got to get through some more games, talk through some more players. Y'all know what it is. Run up the likes. We got over 765 people watching across all streaming platforms. Hit that thumbs up button, like the content. We'll be right back after the break. All right, appreciate y'all being back in. As we said at the start of the show, make sure you go to Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code ALLGAS for up to $1,000 in bonus cash, and you get some dope picks that should automatically hit. Make sure you check out the Start Sit Show on this channel Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and then make sure you check out all the dope content. Trade show coming out this weekend, usage in Trinity. Telling y'all, if y'all are thinking about wide receivers, trying to figure out which ones to start, which ones to sit, all that stuff, go to ddfantasyfootball.com, and if you watch like the first 10 minutes of this video, there's a nugget in there that will allow you to try the Trinity Tracker out. Use the tool, subscribe to the site at a reduced cost. That is going to go away after today, so I highly encourage you to do that right damn now. Jay Rich, Detroit and the Cardinals, 51.5 point total. This should be a game where we get points, and because of this, I've got 2 Detroit Lions ranked very high, aggressively in my rankings. 2 wide receivers that for that matter, Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. We saw J-Mo get 11, 12 targets. Amon-Ra had like 18 last week. Arizona, Maserati Marv, 4 for 132 touchdowns. Hopefully he gets some more targets after the first damn quarter. But where are you at with this one, man? Cardinals are underdogs, 3-point underdogs at home against Detroit. Where you at with this one, baby?
Yeah, big litmus test for the Cardinals, right? I think that this game is going to hinge on their offensive success. We've seen the Lions kind of grind out games. We've seen them playing some higher scoring games. And I think there is question marks as to how good this Lions team really is. They're about to go on the road to Arizona, which isn't an overly difficult place to play. But if Kyler's playing the way he played last week with that perfect QBR, it's going to be a lot more difficult than I think they're hoping for. So I do like the Cardinals in this matchup, especially with the points. But we'll have to see. How does Kyler play? Does he get the ball to Marv, number one? Because they're not going to have such easy of a time this time around with the Lions. And I think the bigger question is, how do you feel about some of these lines? Because I am concerned about Marv. I don't think that Marv is a surefire thing. Yeah, he played great, but Ray, you look at how he scored and how he scored points. it was a lot of broken plays. There's a lot of like spectacular stuff. It was big plays. It was things that you don't see happen normally. So you see him do a lot of spectacular and not a lot of routine plays. That's why we love Amon-Ra St. Brown. As consistent as he is, as great as he is, he has the high and the floor that we love to see. So I'm a little bit worried about Marv, and we'll get to that when we talk the rankings. Love James Conner this week. I love Jahmyr Gibbs, and I love Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams. I am a little bit worried about Sam Laporta, though. I don't know how much of Sam Laporta we see. I would much rather prefer to play or bet on Trey McBride. But where are you at on this team, and where do you want to start with, Lions or Cardinals? I think that it's going to hinge mostly on how the Cardinals play in this matchup.
All right, here goes some numbers. 77.5 yards for Amon-Ra, 6.5 receptions. 54.5 yards for J-Mo, 3.5 receptions. 49.5 rushing yards for Gibbs, 11 attempts. 3.5 receptions for Jahmyr Gibbs. 260.5 yards for Jared Goff, and 46 yards and 4.5 receptions. And let me just tell you right now, the juice is to the under Sam Laporta receptions at 4.5. Jay, if you had to take a line from this game, and I believe from the Cards, Marv was 5 receptions, 60 yards. James Conner, 60.5 rushing yards, feels like good.
Good.
Jay Rich?
Yeah. That's if they are playing smart, they should be running the hell out of James Conner. Like, they really should, because I think that they're not playing the Rams this week, so they can't just throw the ball all over the yard like they did last week. Kyler's not going to be able to run
Detroit's
around
pass defense is better, man. Yeah.
I personally think it's a little suspect, but the bigger question, Ray, and this is where I think it's very interesting.
It's better than LA.
Would you want to take a Kyler rushing yard line? Because one, he's running like crazy. And if you correlate that with the man, the myth, the legend out of Michigan, Aiden Hutchinson going absolutely nuclear last week.
Okay.
Like, he's going to generate pressure. So if you think Aiden Hutchinson's going to generate pressure and probably sack Kyler at least once in this game, Kyler's going to have to run away from that pressure. That's why you lean on James Conner and you take the rushing yards for Kyler Murray. Because as fast and as good as Aiden Hutchinson is, Kyler's probably just as elusive to get away from him. And I think he's going to use his legs a lot in this game. He did the first 2 weeks. And I think he only continues that against the Lions.
Man, we're loading up bell cow Conner, man. We are loading up bell cow Conner. 60.5 just feels like free money with James Conner, Jay. Who do you think wins this game? Just curious. 51.5 points. It should be a good fantasy matchup.
I personally would take the Cardinals and the points. Easy.
I was going to say I'll take the Cardinals and the points too. I think I would take the Cardinals and the points.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Jay.
100%.
Quickly. And it is not the lowest over-under total on the slate. Carolina and the Raiders. Is there any chance and any hope that this Carolina Panthers offense looks a lot better with Andy Dalton? And is there any sneaky plays? Like, is Diontae Johnson back in play this week? 47.5 receiving yards, 4 receptions for Diontae Johnson. Let me just go Adam Thielen and see what Thielen is. 4 receptions, 44.5 yards for Adam Thielen. I'm telling you right now, I am firing up Davante Adams. Davante Adams should absolutely feast this Sunday on the secondary. He is getting high-valued targets. The usage is there. Jacoby Myers ain't doing shit. They can't run the ball. Trey Tucker's not doing anything. Give me Davante Adams this week. Top 5 wide receiver in my rankings this week. Give me all the Tay Adams.
Yeah, we will talk about Tay Adams on the ranking show, but you're not going to be happy with what I have to say about him. But I think people need to remember that this team is really bad. And while Andy Dalton should provide a little bit of upside, like for me, if you wanted to start Thielen or Diontae, I couldn't blame you if you're really in a pinch, because I think the offense will be better. But I don't want to, because we don't know how this is going to shake out. We don't know how well Andy Dalton knows the offense. We don't know who his guy is in the offense. Like, there's a lot of unknowns. I tend to think it's going to be Thielen just because he plays in the slot more than Diontae probably will. But we'll see how they play. I just wouldn't want to start anybody. I wouldn't say I'm not benching Adams, but I'm not probably taking his overs in this matchup. I think Carolina is just too bad. I think you probably see a heavy dose of Zamir White and Alexander Mattison in this matchup.
Well, I've got a heavy dose of Brock Bowers in this slip. Higher than 4.5 receptions. I am all in on Brock Bowers.
Beamed up for Bowers,
Vegas.
They say.
I am in. Beamed up for Bowers. There you go. Jimbo, beamed up for Bowers. How do you like that one? It doesn't have the same ring as beamed up for Benson, but I'm beamed the hell up for Bowers. Jay, Caleb Williams versus Anthony Richardson, the struggle bus quarterbacks. 43.5 point total in this one. Bears Colts, 43.5 points. Colts are 1.5 point favorites. Is this A-Rich versus Jalen Johnson in this defense, Jay? How we feeling about Richardson this week?
Richardson, I'll tell you this, he is not a top 12 quarterback for me. I was reluctant to even rank him.
I don't think
in the top 15.
I got him right at 12, I think.
We have him very similarly. Let me see. Let me pull it up right now since I have it. You have him at 11. I have him at, looks like 14, right? So fringe top 12. He's throwing the ball really poorly. This defense is very, very good. Very, very good. And that's what concerns me the most. Like, when you see CJ Stroud suffering against the Chicago defense, what do you think is going to happen when Anthony Richardson plays them? He's going to be even worse. He's going to look awful. But what I will say about Caleb, and while I am fading Caleb to some extent this week, I'm not quite in on him. He ranks out very highly when you talk about the projections that you have for him. He is a little bit higher than you expect him to be. The yards are there. The touchdowns are there. He could have a good week. Now, again, it'll be mostly DJ Moore because we're not expecting Keenan Allen to be active, and we're not expecting Odunze to be overly involved with him dealing with the injury. But he came out higher than I expected in the early projections. So if you want to start Caleb, I wouldn't say that you couldn't, because the rushing yards could be there as well. But I'm definitely not in on this Bears offense. I think this could be, if it wasn't for Green Bay, Tennessee, this would be the worst game of the week for me. And that's including the Chargers and Steelers.
How about an under Swift rushing yards, 53.5? That feels aggressive, doesn't it? Doesn't it just feel aggressive?
He can't have more than that this whole season. There's no way. There's no way,
this
man.
This feels like a very high line for DeAndre Swift, man. Like,
what's he at? Let's see what he's averaging per carry. So right on the season, Ray, he has 48 rushing yards.
On the season?
On the entire season, he has 48 rushing yards. That can't be right. That can't be right. Yeah, he's averaging 2 yards per attempt. 24 attempts and 48 rushing yards. 2 yards per attempt for DeAndre Swift. Wow, that is something. That is something. Right. I did not expect. We
got a lower 53.5 on that game. Jay, this should be a really good game.
Yeah, Colts run D isn't great. Jacobs cooked him.
The Colts run D ain't great. I know. Houston versus Minnesota, Jay. 46 points. Houston versus Minnesota. This should be a good matchup. The Houston defense is good, so it should provide a very, very strong test for Sam Darnold in that offense. But Minnesota's defense, led by Brian Flores, is no joke either, which Houston's offense, they still need to get it going, getting it clicking, CJ Stroud, getting it going a little more. But talk about this one and the potential for Joe Mixon to play, not be 100%. Where are you at with the Texans and the Vikings this week? Let's just get the obvious ones out of the way. You're firing up Jefferson. You're firing up your Nico Collins. Are those the only must-start players? Let's just start there. Are Justin Jefferson and Nico Collins the only two must-start players from this matchup? Like, no doubt, sight unseen, you're plugging them in. Those two. Is that it?
Absolutely not, because there's a player, Ray, that's going to be playing in the slot who used to play in Minnesota, and that is none other than the petty one himself, Stephon Diggs. I expect Stephon Diggs to have a massive game. If there's one thing you don't want to do, it's blitz CJ Stroud, and Brian Flores is definitely stubborn enough to blitz him, and I think that's going to create a lot of short passes and quick passes for players like Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell in the receiving game. So while I definitely have Diggs ranked much higher than Dell right now, I think he can provide at least wide receiver 2 value, if not score a touchdown. I think there's still some animosity with Stephon Diggs, and they'll want to get him the ball early and often, and Diggs has a massive game against the Minnesota Vikings.
Well, is this just a Diggs revenge game? Is that the narrative that you're going with here?
Well, part of it is the pressure, right? Flores pressures a lot. He plays a lot of zero. And I think when you're talking about Nico Collins, he'll see Stephon Gilmore more likely than not on the outside, and you have to get the ball a little bit quicker. I think that lends itself to a better game plan to where Diggs can get the ball more. I think the revenge narrative only adds to the success Diggs could have in this game.
Yeah, somebody said that Nico pop up on the injury report. I'm not sure.
He did. He did, but he's back at practice. Yeah.
I'll just say this. The usage so far for Diggs and Dell have not been good. It's been nothing but Nico Collins, Diggs getting those touchdowns, red zone work.
And what I say
when it comes to usage and utilization, Jay, for me, I say with two might do with certain teams, 2 games might do. You're like, hey, you go out there for the first 2 games, you get 15 plus targets, 2 might do. I need 3 to see. Like this week is going to be telling for me for a lot of these situations, a lot of these wide receivers and trends. 2 might do it, but I need 3 to see. So week 3, I think we'll start to get some identifiable patterns. And is this offense sort of the Nico show and everybody else? Or were the first 2 weeks just sort of figuring things out? Should be a good game. Point is, that should be a good game. 46-point total should be a good one. The second lowest total on the slate, which is not projected to be a good game, the Green Bay Packers versus the Tennessee Titans. And I know we're sitting here talking about Jordan Love playing. He's not going to play. Don't play him versus the Tennessee Titans. Who do you feel good about in this matchup starting? Josh Jacobs, no doubt. You're rolling Josh Jacobs out there. Tony Pollard, no doubt starting him. Probably Calvin Ridley, you were going to start him regardless. Are you starting any Green Bay Packer wide receiver this week with Malik Willis?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
I couldn't even get Jaden Reed in there. It's just it's going to be bad. It's, as you mentioned, Josh Jacobs. I would start Calvin Ridley as a wide receiver 3/flex. And I would start Tony Pollard because the role is good. Tajay Spears did return to practice, as I mentioned, but I think that Pollard still gets majority of the carries. And for anyone who didn't watch that game last week between them and Indy, Jonathan Taylor had a really good game. It just didn't amount to anything because they didn't win it. And I think that Tony Pollard will have success running the ball against Green Bay.
Hey, real quick, Colin and a couple of people are asking about Cam Akers. Akers is a must start with Mixon out.
I've ranked him pretty aggressively. I think he'll be pretty good. I ranked him high
too. You didn't even know it. You ranked him after you saw my ranking of him.
No, first of all, we were supposed to do the ranking show on Wednesday, and my ranks were done, so I didn't change those at all. Let's just pump the brakes on the slander of old Jay Rich here. Let's just pump the brakes on the slander of Jay Rich.
I would, if Mixon is out, I'm starting Akers. I would start Akers if Mixon is out. Yeah. I would start Cam.
I don't think he fumbles on the goal line this week.
Miami versus Seattle, Jay. Seattle 4.5-point favorites, 41.5-point total. So Vegas is still saying that they think some points are going to be scored in this one, more than Green Bay, more in the Panthers, more in the Chargers, more in the Giants. So still points to be scored in this matchup. Skylar Thompson is at the helm, Jay. Quick peek into the rankings. I did it just based off of historical ceremony and deference. Tyreek is still inside the top 12 at the very bottom. Jalen Waddle barely made it inside the top 36. I don't feel good about anybody outside of Devon Achane, and I've got the rosary beads, I got the candles, I got all of it, man. We're gonna pray to the many-faced God that the wide receivers get it done. I don't know though, Jay. I don't feel good about Miami versus this Seattle defense that is no joke. I don't feel good.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the Seattle defense is probably the most surprising for me this year. When you just talk about total yards per game, I believe they're in the top 5 in yards allowed. They are only behind Pittsburgh, Miami, surprisingly, Houston, the Chargers, and the Tennessee Titans, who are number 1. Seahawks defense is much improved this year. I don't want to start anybody but Tyreek Hill. I didn't even rank Jalen Waddle because I just don't know what the upside is. The thing for me is it will be Tyreek Hill, and it'll be a hell of a lot of Devon Achane, but you're starting him anyways. I think the question is, Ray, is what are you doing with Seattle? Because I have JSN, I believe, in my top 24. I have DK and in a mid wide receiver 2 range as well. I don't have Tyler Lockett in there, and I think we see a similar game plan to like we saw last week. Charbonnet is awful. Don't bother starting him. He's no good. He's touchdown or bust. But I also don't believe in Geno, though. That's my biggest fear is like Ryan Grubb has done a great job. I'm not there with Geno. Like I can't rank him in my top 12 right now.
Jay, we had this conversation in the Cord, man. I think Geno Smith, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, they are playing their way into another deal. Like legit. I'm not saying that they're some long-term valuable dynasty asset. Who was I? Man, where was I? There was a thread on X, and I'm blanking on the account name. But basically talked about, everybody's talking about this too high look, right? You had tweeted about Mel Kiper went out there and talked about the too high safeties need to be banned from the NFL. And we went in our Discord and I talked about this to our patrons. I was like, y'all, look at the NFL today, Jay, and think about the caliber of quarterback that we have. It's a way different era, dude. We don't have Peyton Manning and Phillip Rivers and Drew Brees and Tom Brady and Tony Romo and Aaron. Yeah. It's a way different era. You look at the guys that are in the league now just starting, they couldn't hold a candle to any of them cats 10 years ago, right? Like the quarterback is changing. That they're, and he broke it down by talking about like these new age quarterbacks. They lack experience. They didn't have the experience throwing the ball in college. They're not that. It's just the evolution of the game has changed, Jay. So when you're looking at, some of these situations and you're looking at the scoring being down this year, it ain't got shit to do with two high safeties over the top. That has been around since 1951. That is a basic defensive principle, two safeties on the field playing over the top. It's the caliber of quarterback. They can't throw over the middle. They can't read defenses, and that's why you've got these guys. It all coincides with one another, Jay. It starts in high school. It continues through college. And we love Anthony Richardson, but are you shocked that he can't sit back in the pocket and do what Phillip Rivers does? He's never going to be able to do that. So when you look at the Carrs, when you look at the Genos, when you look at the Darnolds, like there's going to be a place in the NFL for those guys because they can stand back there and find people over the field. It's I think Geno Smith is doing the most with a lot of least on that offense right now, especially being down Kenneth Walker. I'm firing up Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm not anticipating week 3 to look like week 2, but I'm also not anticipating it to look like it did in week 1, where JSN and DK Metcalf weren't utilized. Again, 2 might do. I need 3 to see. I think week 3 will be telling for the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, and that's where I struggle to rank the Seahawks. It's some people brought up in the chat. They've played the Patriots and they played someone else, like absolute shit. They haven't played anybody yet. So when you look at the Seahawks as well, they got to play competent offense, but now they're playing Miami with Skylar Thompson. I'm not overly worried with Thompson because he has some starter experience. He's played in this system for a long time. We'll see how he plays. Again, supporting Waddle is a different conversation. I think he'll be fine with Achane and Tyreek. But I do think there is some question marks about how good this offense is going to be and how much they'll challenge Seattle to really play. But the quarterback play is so bad in the NFL right now. But it comes from college where it's not good.
I wish we could just have a conversation about football, and then we might have to do an extra stream one day, man. But Moggs said this will make RBs valuable again. And Jay, you had tweeted out, you were like, jokes on these NFL teams who don't want to pay running backs, but then they don't have the damn quarterback that can move the ball down the field. And you think, oh, Zach Moss can just replace Joe Mixon. Oh, Chase Brown is just as good as Joe Mixon. And you sit back and look and you're like, not really. That Mixon guy was a hell of a lot better than these two combined. And when you have these offenses that pour into the QB that can't make those reads, you disregard the running back. You're in a spot where you can't run the ball and you can't throw it. Now what do? You're just screwed. You're absolutely just screwed from a football standpoint. So one day we're just going to get on here and chop it up and talk ball, but we got to get through the last 2 games, Jay. Baltimore at my Dallas Cowboys. I got Derrick Henry as a top 3 running back. Is do or die, Derrick Henry? He should be able to have their way. Even though the Baltimore O-line is banged up and not good, Dallas's run defense is not good. He should be able to have his way on this defense. I don't feel good about my boys in this one, Jay. I am very nervous about the RPO action between Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I've got Derrick Henry high. The total's 48 points. 48-point total, Jay. This is what? Second highest projected total on the slate?
Yeah. I mean, this is
second highest.
This feels do or die for both teams. It's a home game for Dallas, and they got to win all of their home games. And the Ravens are 0-2. And so that's why Lamar Jackson, for me, he's going to smash. Because I don't think he's in a position to where he can't do everything. And that's the part that scares me a bit about Henry, is that you look at the game against the Chiefs, Henry kind of struggled because he didn't get a lot of touches, and they relied so much on Lamar's legs. It's why I love Lamar this week. I think he'll have a phenomenal week once again, especially in Dallas, big stage, going to perform well. But it makes me concerned a little bit about Henry. I'm with you. He's probably going to score, but I think it's going to be a Lamar game and the Lamar show. The Cowboys, on the other hand, nervous. Even Dak, I don't know if Dak is like must-start territory. It's just CeeDee Lamb for me.
It's CeeDee, man. It's CeeDee or bust. They can't run the ball. I don't have confidence that they're going to be able to run it up that tough front 7 of Baltimore.
Yeah,
I think both teams need to win this game, man. I think both teams.
I like
will
Zay
need
a
to
lot
win
too.
this
I think
game.
Zay will see a lot of targets this game.
You think Zay's going to see a lot of targets? I think they're going to run the ball, man. I think they're going to run the ball, or at least Henry's going to have an opportunity to score a lot, Jay. Let's wrap up this final one, Kansas City and Atlanta. And I'm going to actually pull the underdog lines up because there's a lot of just I don't knows in Kansas City. So talk about it, man. Kansas City and Atlanta. I saw somebody in the chat earlier said they think this is a sneaky upset alert, that the Kansas City Chiefs should be on upset alert in this one, Jay.
The Chiefs on upset alert in Atlanta? I don't know about that one, Chief. That's so here's what I'll say, though. Here's what I will say. And the reason why you should be confident in Atlanta to some extent. Justin Simmons is a massive add for Atlanta in this game. He's the player who's picked up Patrick Mahomes more than anybody in Patrick Mahomes' entire career. So he's a player that knows how to play against Patrick Mahomes, who's played him plenty of times after being in Denver for years. And that's where you could give them a little bit of grace. AJ Terrell and all the secondary members that they have there, like, it could be tough. But, I mean, when you're looking at this game, Mahomes should smash, Kelsey should smash, Rashee Rice should smash, and then just, leave everybody else.
No.
Absolutely.
4.5 receptions for Kelsey. It's juice to the over. 48.
Yeah.
You feel good about that? You feel good about 48.5 yards for Kelsey, 4.5 receptions?
I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't run the ball at all. Like, why would they run the ball? They got Kareem Hunt, they got Carson Steele, they got
zero
Samaje
rushing
Perine.
attempts, right? Just
very
zero.
little, like 15 to 20 max for them, because they don't have the personnel to really do that. And we've seen them rely on the short passing game with Kelsey, with Rashee Rice to move the sticks instead of running the ball. So without Pacheco, especially in that first week going into Atlanta, where Atlanta can put up points on them because the Kansas City Chiefs defense is still not playing very well. They allow the 4th most yards in the NFL, and I believe they allow the most passing yards per game in the NFL as well. Or sorry, they're second to the Ravens by half a yard. So Kirk looked pretty good against the Eagles, and now he has an even better matchup against the Chiefs. Not saying that all the players on the Falcons will smash, but I think they can pass the ball, forcing the Chiefs to then once again pass the ball as well. And I just think it's going to be a fairly high-scoring game as long as Kirk can play pretty well.
Bijan Robinson, 72.5 yards versus the Spagnuolo-led defense. How we feeling?
I'd rather take the receiving yards for Bijan than take the rushing yards.
30.5 receiving?
Mm-hmm. I like that. Right, I think he's going to have to catch the ball.
All right, we're going to load that in there. Kirk Cousins, 224. Passing touchdowns, 1.5. No, thank you. How do I take the lower on that?
You're going to take the
Kyle
lower,
Pitts,
really?
Jay. Your boy Kyle Pitts, 38.5 yards for Pitts. I mean, at this point, I can't even defend him anymore, Jay. I can't even defend him anymore. What are you doing? They say play your tight ends against the Chiefs. It's
the best matchup in the NFL? Like,
I was gonna say,
name it. You look at what's happened. Fucking Mike Gesicki looked like Rob Gronkowski last week, and Isaiah Likely broke fantasy week 1.
Are we gonna put Pitts in the slip?
Look, I don't like Kyle Pitts. He's not really even getting the targets to be relevant, but I mean, it's between him or Darnell Mooney. Who would you rather take the over for, Darnell Mooney or Kyle Pitts? But the matchup is good. Like, the matchup is literally the best in the NFL. It's not even close.
I just can't do it, Jay. I can't do it. The gut won't let me. The gut won't let me, Jay. The gut won't let me. Let's go back to KC. I want to finish this one out. Let's go back to KC. Okay. Worthy. People asking about Worthy. How you feeling about Worthy in this one?
I'm cautiously optimistic. I don't think he's gonna go crazy. It's
long
low
reception,
volume for him.
20 yards.
That's not bad. That's definitely good for Worthy. Yeah.
All right, we're gonna do it.
Okay.
The gut.
Why would you take Rashee Rice's receptions or something?
Well, it's fucking done now. There it is. $25 to win $18.72. Nice. We got Rashid Shaheed higher than 47.5. Derek Carr higher than 1.5. Touchdown. Smitty higher than 73.5 yards. Connor over 60.5 rushing yards. Bowers over 4.5 receptions. DeAndre Swift lower than 53.5 yards. Bijan higher than 30.5 receiving yards. And X-Worthy higher than 19.5 long reception. Jay, I kind of like this slip, Jay. I think this is cashing, Jay.
I like it. It's a good slip. You know, I like Bijan. I like London. I think Pitts could do some things. Like, the matchup to throw the ball against KC has been good so far. And while it is Lamar and Joe Burrow, who are two very good quarterbacks, I think Kirk can take advantage. And I think there will be opportunities to be had. And so I do like both sides of this game. And I think we could see a fairly high scoring one, depending on how both defenses play.
And real quick, we didn't look it up. I just want to look at Baltimore real quick. Lamar, 215 for the passing yards. Henry, 67 rushing. You got Zay, 5 receptions. Andrew, 39 yards for Andrews. 3.5 receptions for Mark Andrews. Likely, 3 receptions and 32.5 yards for Isaiah Likely. And there's Rashad Bateman over there. We're not touching him. So those are some of the lines for Baltimore. And somebody asked about Jake Ferg. If Ferg plays, he's in. He's a top 10 guy for me. If Ferg plays, they just have his touchdowns up. No other lines for Ferg. And then Lamb, if you use the promo code ALLGAS, you get this the gimme pick, higher than probably should have added that in there, Jay. We probably should have taken the free square there instead of making things harder on ourselves. We had one super chat, Jay. Got one super chat that we got to get to from the people before we get out of here. We got to do the ranking show. Jay. What's the super chat? We had two, actually. Okay. Jimbo says, chat, need 2. PPR, Steele, Mooney, Javonte Williams, or Jalen Tolbert. Need 2, Jay. PPR, Steele, Mooney, Javonte, or Tolbert.
Oh, man. Mooney for sure. But, Ray, where are we going with the second one? Would you go Steele and pray he scores?
Probably Steele. I was looking at his reception. I was looking at his receiving yard line, and I kind of like probably Steele. Steele and Mooney.
Yeah, I don't want to start Tolbert, and I definitely don't want to start Javonte. Javonte's got no hope with Bo Nix.
I would prefer not to start Javonte Williams either, Jay. All right, and the final one that we had is from Young Reezy, 007. Thoughts on Jerome Ford? Sell or hold? Goodbye.
Really?
Garage sale. Yeah. Garage. Front yard.
I like him this week.
8 a.m. We're up early. He's sitting out there. We got the sign on him, but we can negotiate. I got him up for $50, but if you got 35 cash, we can make a deal. Garage sale right in the front yard. Sell. Not holding Jerome Ford. I'm good. You feel otherwise?
Fine. Yeah. I might hold him through this week because it is the Giants. He could score this week and maybe has a bit more value heading into next week. But yeah, if you want to sell him, I mean, you're probably getting a third at best. You sell him for a third?
I'm good.
You just take it?
Sure. I just told you I'll list him for 50. I'll take 35. Hit the music.
What does that even mean, bro? Like, where's the parallel here? Like, go try and sell him for $50 and see what happens. People be like, what the
hell? Hey, man, what a show. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Appreciate everybody being in the damn building. Make sure you check out the Usage Trinity show. Make sure you check out the Start Sit show. Jay Rich and I's rankings will be up here shortly before the end of the day. Anything you want to say before we get out of here, Jay?
No, man, just enjoy the weekend. For anyone who is playing FIFA, I hope the pack luck is with you, and have a good weekend.
FIFA? What are we talking about,
Ray,
man?
FIFA's going crazy. Right. If anyone wants to
let me
in I got you.
Wake y'all asses up Monday morning. We out. Peace.